Welcome to Called to Homeschool with your host, Meg Thomas. I am a mother of 7 with 5 homeschool graduates. Each week, we'll talk about real-life homeschool, mindset shifts, and practical tools you can use in your home. Because homeschooling isn't just about school, it's about restoring the family. Hello, welcome back to Called to Homeschool. Just a quick reminder that it is almost the end of August and the Homeschool Bootcamp is on sale till August 31st. So if that is something that you are thinking that you would want, this is a great time to go do that. You can use the code HAPPY at checkout if you go to www.coachmegthomas.com, and you can grab the Homeschool Bootcamp for 20% off. So don't forget to do that before the month is over. All right, this week, the question comes from Melinda from Oklahoma. She said, "We have recently made the decision to homeschool our 10-year-old twin boys and have officially withdrawn them from their public school district. Homeschooling had never even been considered in our family, but I suddenly felt a weird pull to start praying about it. Now that I know we are meant to do this, I'm left wondering what the boys know. I've determined the subjects and values that are most important to our family, and I intend to go through a period of public school detox. But how do I determine what level to start? Placement tests, winging it like a hippie, or survival of the fittest?" All right, friends, let's dive in. And then there's a little bit more of the question I'll put in at the end. So I don't really believe in grade levels. Not that they don't exist, but just a reminder that they were created by a school system to organize large groups of children by age and then decide what they were going to teach them each year. They are all made up. So there's nothing magical that happens when a child turns 9 that means they should suddenly be doing 4th grade math or reading 4th grade books and writing at a 4th grade level. And one of the beautiful things about homeschooling is that we don't have to organize our children that way. Think about this in adulthood. Nobody asks me, "Meg, what level are you in your finances? What grade are you in cooking? What level are you in parenting? What grade level are you in history?" Nobody cares. There are areas of my life where I'm incredibly capable, and there are other areas, well, I'm still learning a few very basic things. If I want to get better at something, I figure out what I know, figure out what I need to learn next, and I start there. That is learning. And that is what I want for my kids. So when you bring your child home from public school, I wouldn't make your first priority figuring out what grade level they're performing at. I'd spend that detox period getting to know them. What do they love? What are they curious about? What comes easily to them? What frustrates them? Where are their skills that would really benefit them? What do they want to know how to do? Then you can start there. Now, there are times that placement tests are actually useful. Math could be a really good example of this. If you're buying a particular math program and it builds sequentially, taking a placement test could help with that. But you're not taking it because you need to know whether your child is a 5th grader. You're just taking it because you need to know whether or not which book you should buy. And that's a very different mindset. And if your 10-year-old places into one book for multiplication but reads The Hobbit for fun and can tell you everything there is to know about ancient Rome, fantastic. We don't need to turn those things into grade levels. They are just skills. They're just knowledge. They're just places where that particular human happens to be right now. I also wouldn't spend the detox period hunting for gaps. We are all going to have gaps, right? And if you're looking for gaps, you're going to find them. But there are things that I never learned in school. And there are things I've learned as an adult because I became interested in them and went and figured them out. This is actually what I do with my children when I want them to know how to do something. I don't need them to reach adulthood having learned every possible thing because it's impossible. I want them to reach adulthood believing if there's something I don't know, I know how to learn it. And that is my goal. So what level should you start at? I wouldn't. I would start with your child. For something sequential, figure out what they already know and teach the next thing. And if you're not quite sure, honestly, Google it. Use AI. My child is really good in multiplication. What would be next? Is there a math program that would be great with helping with those concepts? For reading, you can give them great books and see what they enjoy and understand. For writing, have them write and see what skills would help them become a better writer. And sometimes with that, I like seeing what works best for a child if they are motivated by a really fun writing activity, or do they like more structured activity, right? And that's why it's really fun to get to know your kids. But also for history and science, you can just follow their curiosity, reading great books, having conversations, going places, building things and exploring. And if there's something you're doing is way too easy, you move on. If it's way too hard, back up. If it's boring everybody to tears, change it. You don't have to decide at the beginning of the school year exactly where your child should be in May. You just go and you watch them and you adjust as you are going through the school year, especially as you are beginning the school. So should you use a placement test? Maybe, if it's useful for you for something like buying a math book. Should you wing it like a hippie? Now that part of your question made me laugh. For me, I think it's less of winging it and being more intentional about moving and shifting things around as needed. But sometimes that might feel a little bit like winging it, especially during your first year, and that's okay. And the final part of that question was maybe just survival of the fittest? Hopefully not. But also remember that it's okay if someone gets annoyed during school, frustrated during school, or even cries. I don't automatically take that to mean that something has gone wrong. I like to use those reactions as information. Is this too hard? Is it too boring? Do we need to change something? Or does this child simply need time to experience some frustration while I encourage them that you've got this and you can do hard things? Frustration doesn't always mean we need to stop. Sometimes it means we need to adjust, and sometimes it means our child is doing something that's hard. But would I let go of the idea that your first job as a homeschool parent is figuring out what level your child is on? Your job is to figure out who your child is, what they know, what they need, and what the next useful thing is for them to learn. Because eventually they're going to be adults, and no one is going to ask them what grade level they're on. They're simply going to encounter things they don't know yet. And I want them to be able to say, I don't know how to do that yet, but I know how to figure it out. That to me is an education. If someone asked me if my kids were on grade level, I would probably just say, sure. But honestly, I don't know, and I really don't care. They are where they are. A few years ago, my 15-year-old was still working on some pretty basic grammar skills. If I'd been focused on grade level, I'd probably could have looked at that and worried that he was behind. But now this year, here he is starting college. And that's such a good reminder to me that kids don't develop in a perfect straight line. They can need extra time in one area and move incredibly quickly in another. I don't need them to be at some predetermined level at a certain age. I just need to see where they are, help them to take the next step, and give them the time and space to grow. And just a side note, so you don't waste your money buying a bunch of different curriculums, trying to find the right level for your kid, most curriculum companies do offer online placement tests that you can use. Have I ever used one? No. I tend to err on the side of getting an easier level for my child than where I think they actually might be. And my reasoning is because I like to build their confidence. They can start thinking, hey, I'm actually really good at math or language arts, or I can figure stuff out. And over time, they really start to believe I am really smart. I am capable. I can learn hard things. And when I would much rather start there and move through the material more quickly than start too hard and have them immediately believe, well, I'm just not good at this, or I'm stupid. The final part of Melinda's question, she says, I would love to hear your thoughts on starting homeschooling after a considerable time in public school. And she already mentioned about detox phase. But my biggest advice would be to ease into homeschool slowly. Don't feel like you need to pull your kids out on school on Friday and have the perfect homeschool up and running by Monday morning. First, learn how to be a family that's together all the time, because that is a different adjustment. And it might sound funny, but it is a transition. Your kids are used to being gone for a large portion of the day, and you're used to maybe being alone or having them gone. And now you're learning how to live together, how to work together, and how to spend a lot more time together. This is actually one of the reasons I wrote my workbook, 30 Days into Homeschooling. Shameless plug for Homeschool Bootcamp. It's free inside of there. But a big part of those first weeks is not academics. It's about building your family culture. Teach your kids how to run the house. Teach them how to clean up after themselves, how to figure out problems and solve them in a healthy way. Working on habits, on getting work done, taking care of their spaces, helping with meals and contributing to the family. Figuring out rhythms together, and then slowly add academics into that. But probably my biggest reminder for a family coming out of public school is, do not recreate school at home. You don't need bells and rigid schedules. You don't need 7 subjects every day. You don't need your kids sitting at a desk for hours. You don't need to replicate the system you just left. Give yourself permission to discover what learning looks like for your family. Read together. Go places, have conversations, work around the house, explore interests, build good habits. And yes, do math and writing and all those things too, but let them fit into your family life instead of making your family life fit around school. Be a family, not a school. That's the transition I would focus on first. And Melissa ends with, I love the podcast. You're the raddest. Keep that up. And to that, I say thank you so much. And thanks to everyone for listening and for submitting your questions. I have a special episode next week that you are not going to want to miss. And don't forget that the sale for the Homeschool Bootcamp ends August 31st, where the 30 days to ease into homeschooling is included right in there. So have an amazing week, and I will talk to you next time. Struggling in your homeschool? You don't have to. Check out the Homeschool Bootcamp at coachmegthomas.com. Thanks so much for listening to Call to Homeschool. If today's episode was helpful, the best way you can support the show is by leaving a rating or review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. It helps more homeschool moms find this work, and I appreciate it so much.